Okay, great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Technology. So we're recording now, and hopefully you guys will benefit from this presentation, and we'll have it available to people that aren't able to attend the session live. We may have some people coming in the first couple of minutes, because that's physically into the room, so that's just kind of a normal thing, and we'll catch them up as they come in. So what I'd like to do is welcome you all to 2024's Battle Apps. This is the second year that we've done this event. First year we had a really good response and had a lot of really interesting application ideas that were presented, and we have even more participants this year, so I'm hoping for a great result as well. What I'm going to be doing here in this session in launching Battle Apps, I'm going to be going over the program, the competition, and potentially answering any questions. So if you do have a question, please feel to put it in the chat. I'm going to try to monitor the chat actively. Hopefully I won't miss any notes here. And if you have a question, if you're in the room, just please raise your hand, and I'll be able to sort of address anything like that along the way. Okay, so I'm going to go to my sharing. And I'm going to bring up my first set of slides. Share my screen. And there we go. Okay, so can everyone see you guys see my Battle Apps? Great, okay. So I'd like to talk about what Battle Apps is, and perhaps answer some questions right out of the gate. First of all, Battle Apps is a competition. So we have a $2,000 prize package available. We're going to be splitting that up among the top entrants. We are going to be splitting it up depending on the entrants and the quality of the submissions. We may split it in 2 or 3 or 4 different prizes. That will be dependent on the number and quality of submissions that we have. So we're going to be looking at the top submissions and splitting up this prize package. It starts today, so you probably have received an email this morning with the Battle Apps booklet. If you haven't, email me after this presentation and I'll make sure you get it. It is a virtual competition, and the submissions are due by January 31st, so the end of the month. The submission will be the workbook. The workbook that is assigned is PDF fillable. So you're going to be able to fill out all the answers to the questions that you need to think about in preparation for designing your app. So another major point of this is that there's no code needed. This is not a programming competition. This is an idea competition. Now that doesn't mean that should you have something that is worth developing, that you may go on to that next step, which would be fantastic. But this is all about the preparation and planning of your application and answering questions that you need to be thinking about before you ever get to the code process. There's a project workbook. Again, you probably have been emailed that. The competition is hybrid. So some of you are watching now online. Some of you are here in the Sandbox. And the sessions are recorded so that you'll be able to see them after and preview and sort of watch the presentations. The intent is in the presentations is to go over what you need to know in filling out the workbook. Okay, so those that attend the sessions or watch the videos will get extra help and extra information in how to complete the workbook more effectively. So keep that in mind. And of course, the best ideas win prizes. So the best ideas, the more filled out, fully sort of conceptualized and designed ideas are what we're looking for here. So hopefully you have your workbook. If not, we'll address that after this session. There's also a Teams site. You should have received an invitation to that already. The Teams site may only be open to people with the CBU email address. Okay, I'm not quite sure of that yet, but in any case, the Teams site is not necessary to complete the program, to complete the competition. The only thing you need to do is fill out the workbook and submit it. Okay. The team site is a repository for the videos and information that I'm going to be giving you. Okay, so It's just a convenient place to put some of the stuff that resources and stuff that you'll need. So you should be able to access it. Most students have a CBU that are in this competition have a CBU email address. You should be able to access it. If you can't, let me know. Maybe I can fix it. If it's not possible to connect because of security restrictions on the CBU domain, then I can make sure that you get all the extra materials or all the other materials. So I'd like to talk about what an app is. We're asking you to design mobile applications. So first of all, apps solve problems. We talk about the world in terms of problems or needs that people have. Apps are good at doing something that's hard to do in the analog world, hard to do in the real world, but easy for a computer to do. Computers can calculate and work out math and numbers and locations and work with large sets of data, and they augment our lives. So the best of apps work with someone to solve their problem, to address the customers. Another word we use is pain. You know, what causes them pain in their life? What can solve some of their problems and pain? Within that, the ideation process asks, what is the problem? Okay, what pain needs to be solved? Okay, and identifies who has that pain and who potentially can solve or can have their pain alleviated by your application or your problem. So you identify something that's hard to do in the real world, but the computer can help solve someone's problem easily. And finally, in this stage, like the market, well, how do we get that to them? How do we get to them to solve that problem? Okay, and that can be both in actually physically distributing our application, I guess not physically, but digitally submitting our application, but reaching the market with promotion, reaching the market, letting them know that you have this solution to the problem available. So what kind of ideas make good apps? These were big, hairy ideas, like really big, complicated problems make great apps. The idea is that you should be thinking big. Okay? The best of these apps will be thinking large scale. Okay? And then when you reach that point, think bigger again. Like, can this solve a worldwide problem? Is there a worldwide market for this? Canada, if you think about it, is a small market. 35, 38 million people, let alone Nova Scotia or Cape Breton. Like a lot of people come in with ideas and they say, well, I have this app and I want to build this app for Sydney. Well, that's great, but does that app solve the same problem in another jurisdiction, in another place? Okay, can it solve the same problem for someone in San Francisco? Can it solve the same problem for someone in London? Okay, very often, if you're solving a problem that exists here, that same problem exists somewhere else. Don't limit yourself to small market problems. Okay, find things that are big. Think about how many people and what the total, I use the word TAM, total addressable market. Okay, if this is a total addressable market of 5 people, it's a lot of work to go through to solve 5 people's problem. If the total addressable market is 500 million people, then we probably have something that has some universal application and some upside. Okay. It takes just as much time to develop your app for 500 people as it does for 500 million. It's the same amount of work. Okay, so don't limit yourself with small ideas to small geographic areas. So find your big idea. Explain to us in this process how your solution solves a problem. Are you the customer? Okay, now oftentimes you run into a problem and you realize, okay, well, this is something that needs to be addressed. It would help me. Well, if it helps you, it might help a lot of other people as well. So it's a valid way to ideate and come up with problems. It's something you personally have experienced. And then we say, well, what does that app look like? How does it work? How does it solve? Like, actually, how does it solve? The mechanics of how it solves someone's problem. If it makes their problem more complicated, and that's a reality of some applications, then it probably won't get adopted or picked up. But if it really is an efficient way of looking at a problem someone has and making their life simpler, then you may be onto a good idea. And then we move on to describing it. You wireframe and prototype your idea. So before you ever code, before you ever spend a lot of money, you sit down, you draw things out, you write things out, you describe things. And that's the process we're going to go through here. With the workbook, I've given you a template for describing your idea, describing the problem it solves, describing the customer, describing how your application works and what the features are, and even illustrating out exactly what it kind of looks like, okay, before you ever code anything. Okay, so that's what we're doing here in this competition, is we're thinking this out and making these plans so that we don't waste time on the back end with the programming and the development. Okay, we're identifying whether this, you know, this idea has legs, so to speak. So in identifying a problem, this is something that I think people should really look honestly at their situation, okay, at what they know. Like, what do you think you know? Oftentimes I'll have people come into my office and say, well, this such and such a thing has happened. All these people have this problem. I said, well, how do you know that? Well, I just know it. Okay, well, that's not research. Okay, that's a feeling, that's a guess. Okay, there's a difference between what you think you know and what you know, leaving a whole lot of other stuff, which is things you don't know. Okay, and that's one of the things I ask people coming in is like, so well, how do you know that? Well, I just know it. Okay, well, that's telling me that you really probably haven't done enough research. You're running probably on emotion, and you really haven't thought about the actual situation and what you can define as an actual fact, which gives you a scope of what you don't know, the things you need to do research on. So you do your research, and after that you realize you probably don't even know anything about what your problem is. At that point, when you realize that you only have a small amount of the information, that's when you really start to learn. Okay? Identifying the body of knowledge, the information that you don't know, and understanding it's probably a whole lot more than what your gut instinct is telling you. See, that's the point where you start to learn. Okay? And this is what we're trying to maybe flesh out a little bit in this competition, is looking at identifying the facts, the actual customer, the actual problem, and getting to the core of the solution that you want to provide. So in the process here, we describe our app. I love this quote. I apologize for the long letter. I didn't have time to write a short one. Okay. One of the key skills that you need to be able to develop is to pinpoint your problem, pinpoint your idea, and really define it. Okay. Without a lot of, I guess it sort of works like this and kind of like this, and it could be, right? Mark Twain had it on the nose when he said that it takes time to write a concise letter. You start writing a big, verbose letter or a report. You probably have done that for university classes. And then after you look at it, you sort of shrink it down and you get to the core. You get to the most important information, and you say it in a very concise way. So that's going to be the goal here. Less will be more. So I'm asking you to really think about and really define and concisely describe your problem, your solution, your customer, and how your app works. Less is more. In that, you'll find tools like similes, analogies, and metaphors. Now, similes, analogies, and metaphors, I'll give you an example. Lion King. I love this app. I love this example. So when they were pitching the movie Lion King, most of you have probably seen it, okay? It's a bit older now, but I mean, it's a Disney classic. So Lion King was pitched to the studio as Bambi in Africa. Okay, now Bambi is a much older movie, but again, a Walt Disney classic. The story of a young deer who loses his mother and is forced to grow up on his own. It's Lion King. Lion King is Bambi set in Africa. It's the same story. Okay. The second you say those three words, any Hollywood executive instantly gets your story, understands that you don't have to say anything else. I'll give you another example. There's an app out there called Handy. Now, I can almost guarantee none of you have heard of Handy. Okay? Probably have no idea what it does. But if I told you that handy was Uber for house cleaning? You got it now, right? Okay, that's all I had to say. It's Uber for house cleaning. Now you get a lot of apps that are like that, where they sort of pivot off of an established idea. Okay? In this case, that hiring metaphor facilitated by an online app for house cleaning. I don't have to tell you anything else. You instantly got it. Find those similes, find those metaphors, ways of describing concisely your idea to someone. Okay, it's very short descriptions carrying a lot of information. An example of that. Now you all probably, well, maybe you do or don't have Netflix, but there's a show on Netflix that was pitched as a combination or a mashup of 3 different movies. Now they're older movies, you may or may not have heard of them, but they're classics. Stand By Me, movie from I think the 80s about a group of young boys going off on an adventure and growing up together. Jaws, big bad shark attacks and eats people. Okay, combined with another movie, whoops, go back there, called Poltergeist. Okay, that's Stranger Things. Okay, Poltergeist is a story about a little girl that gets sucked into a TV by ghosts. Jaws, big bad monster eats people. And Stand By Me, group of boys grows up together, coming of age story. Okay, I tell you this show is a mashup of those 3 things. You're a Hollywood executive, you instantly get the show. And of course, they happen to be blockbuster shows. Like, in fact, I think Jaws was technically the first, what they call blockbuster. So using these metaphors, using these examples, that's a good thing. So that's, let me go back to, so you can have a look at me. Is there anybody here in the room or online that has any questions at this point? Gosh, I'm good at doing this. Describing things. I'm Mr. Describer. That's wonderful. So I'm going to go on. I'm going to have a quick look at the workbook. I guess I'm going to move to that for a second. So I'm going to go and share my screen again. And we'll be able to go to there. Okay, so you should be seeing, this is the Battle Apps workbook. I'm going to be in the next 3 sessions. So we're going to be doing these sessions every Tuesday, both in class and online. I'm going to be separating out, we're going to be describing parts of the workbook to give more information specifically about how to fill out each section. So please attend the other sections online or in class. You're going to get the information you need to more completely and professionally fill out this workbook and maybe win some money along the way. So I'm going to quickly go through it. So the first page, just contact information, nothing surprising there. And then we get into some of this problem identification. Now this is fillable. You're going to fill this out and save it, and in the end you're going to send it all back to me. This is what I'm going to be evaluating in the end. Describing your business model and your market. Are there any similar apps? Now, a lot of people will come in to me and say, well, I've got this idea. There's no such thing out there as this idea. Well, that's probably not true. There probably is, and that's not a bad thing. What sometimes people think is, I've got this idea, and it's so ingenious, no one has ever thought of it. You take it to an investor, and what you think you're saying, okay, no one has ever thought of this, the investor hears something different. Well, it's not that no one is interested in it, is what they're hearing. It's actually a good thing to have competition, okay? To identify models that also think that this space is a good place to be, okay? This app idea is a good place to be, okay? If we thought that skip the dishes was the only way to deliver food, DoorDash would never have started, okay? So it validates a market to show that other people are in that space. Keep that in mind. And then we talk about, you know, where is the market for this? What's your market engagement hypothesis? We'll talk more about that. Identify your customer. Build a profile of the person you think is actually going to be buying this application. We've got a couple of worksheets. Now, these aren't fillable here, but you can print them off and use them to help ideate and sort of flesh out your idea. So I've included them here where you can print them off. These aren't fillable. And again, I'll talk more about those in detail in a later session. We've got a field here where you get to describe describe the application. Come up with you got a whole page to work with, but keep it to this page, please. The feature set. What does your application do? Pinpoint what are the features. Now, you don't necessarily have to fill out all 12. Maybe you have, in fact, probably if you have a very concise description and a concise, powerful problem, you know, Uber, okay, that doesn't help you book a hotel. Like Uber doesn't have to help you book a hotel. It's a strong app in itself. So its feature set is limited but powerful. But there's 12 spots there. We talk a little bit about the technology, front end, back end. What does the user see and do? Talking about prototyping or prototyping, how can you test your idea? We're going to discuss that a little bit along the way. And how can you do that without spending any money or spending very little money? A couple of blank templates. Again, you can draw on this. And we're going to give you some links as well to some resources. Those are linked on the website. The URLs are here in this workbook. You can see mockups, which is a site where you can wireframe, because all kinds of little cute icons and templates and lines, and where you can actually start to flesh out some of your idea and design your application on paper. Okay, so mockups looks something like this. And then there's other sites, you know, like StoryBrand, Framebook, and Intuit, Onshape, that have some other tools that you may choose to use as well. Okay. Again, what's required here is that you turn in the workbook at the end. Okay. Complete the information in the workbook as succinctly and completely as possible. And I've given you some resources here to work with that you can help ideate with. I am sort of interested in getting the mockups link. So in fact, this should have a mockup link. Maybe I might have to update this or something. Oh, no, there it is, the mockup link. So if you have a link for mockups, you can paste it in there, and then I can check out that sample, okay? And sort of visually get an idea of what your project entails. So that's the workbook. That's the overall on the program itself. Again, if there's any other questions, anybody in the room or anyone online, please let me know. And I've got one other slide deck to go through.
Okay.
Question?
Sorry, we can't text.
Awesome question. The people online may not have heard, but you said this competition is about the idea. Is there a chance to implement or build the idea? Yes, there will be. So one of the things that I'm going to encourage you all to do is check out the Island Startup website. So this event here is part of a series of events that we're doing that hopefully participants will also come in and on a later event. So we're going to do a hackathon at the end of the year. So we've got 2D, 3D modeling happening. We've got battle apps happening. We've got another thing happening in February called 5-Day Startup. So these events are sort of priming the pump for an activity later in the year. Now, what you may be able to do, I'm hoping you will be able to do, and everyone else online, is take your idea and build a team, inclusive of a designer and a programmer and maybe marketing and business students. Build a team, 3, 4, 5 people, and take part in the hackathon and build out your idea. The work you're doing now may prepare you for a later event, a later competition. Okay. So the point of this is to get the ideas out. And yes, I'm hoping that some of these ideas will turn into applications by the end of the year. Okay, or at least prototypes for applications. Okay. We'll be hoping and trying to put and merging some technical people. There may be some people in the Coders Society and coming in through the design and seeing if we can actually build some teams that can come together at the end of the year to work on a hackathon. Okay, great. Okay, anyone online? Any questions?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can barely hear you. Yes.
What about now? Can you hear me?
Okay, that's a little better. Yeah.
So you made mention of the link, the side in the template that had the link. What if Um, can I place the link of a mock-up from Figma, like the link? You can check that.
Yep, yep,
Okay, thank you.
yep. If you want to use Figma, that's fine too. Yeah, I would look at mockups though. Figma and mockups are different, but yeah, I'd look at that link as well. Yeah, which maybe to dovetail on that, because I think you've asked me another question previously. If you're already working on an idea, that's fine to flesh out your idea here. My guess is that because what happens is people have an idea and then they rush to development, and they don't do all of the preparation, the identification of the market, understanding what the core problem is. So this is a chance maybe to backfill some of that. And I'm suspecting in that process, you'll end up refining your idea. Okay. Current projects are welcome in this process, and it helps you maybe backfill. Okay. It doesn't earn you extra points to have built anything. Okay. I probably should say that as well. This is really about the ideation and the planning. Okay. Later on, when we do a hackathon or work with another activity like 5-day startup or something we have in February, there may be a different opportunity to work with that idea as well. But for this competition, it's about the ideation. Okay, coming in and describing what you want. Okay, I'm going to hit one last deck. And there we are. So I'm going to talk a little bit about applications and use some examples here. This is the email that started Airbnb. So Joe Gebbia, I think it's pronounced Gebbia, and Brian Chesky, inclusive of misspellings and bad grammar and capitalization, Brian, I thought of a way to make a few bucks. How many ideas start with that exact phrase? I thought of a way to make a few bucks. Turning our place into designer's bed and breakfast. B&B is bed and breakfast. Okay, it's actually airbed and breakfast. In any way, offering young designers who come into town a place to crash during the 4-day event. There was a design conference happening in San Francisco. Basically, all the hotels were jammed up, and there were people coming in that needed a place to stay. And basically, he said, we'll give them an airbed and breakfast and some Wi-Fi. Okay, so that was the start of Airbnb. Whoops, stop that. There we go. And this is the path they took. And you can find this story online. It's a wonderful story. So they thought they had an idea. Okay, let's rent out some air mattresses. They made a simple website. 3 people showed up. Yay, success. Wonderful. Their test worked. Okay, they thought the idea could grow bigger. So they brought a co-founder in who could do some website stuff, and they launched at another conference, South by Southwest. Failure. 2 bookings. They put a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of money. 2 people booked. Okay. Well, what's wrong with their model? Like, why didn't it work? Okay. And then they said, well, we need to get the word out there, the name out there. And this is kind of where the story gets a little weird. I'm going to go ahead to one slide. They actually promoted the next event by releasing specialized cereal for the presidential primaries. So you could buy, and they raised money selling this cereal. You may recognize Barack Obama, but he was running against John McCain. So you could buy John McCain or Barack Obama breakfast cereal, and they raised money with that. And they attracted some funding. They pushed their service out. It really wasn't growing very quickly. Okay? And they looked at what their problems were, and one of the problems was the low quality of the site. Okay? So, hold on, I'm going to skip ahead. So that was the site. Okay? They realized that their pictures were lousy and they weren't enticing enough. Okay? So they actually hired a photographer to go in and stage and take better pictures of properties. And that actually helped. It started to grow. They were making $400, $500, $600 a week. They were still looking for more money and were rejected by numerous venture capitalists. Okay? And then something weird happened again, weirder than the cereal. Barry Manilow's drummer rented a house from them. Now, Barry Manilow's an old artist, I guess, but still massive following. His drummer pushed it out on his social media. Hey, I rented this place and it was really great. That notoriety hooked through a famous celebrity actually is what probably turned the tide for them. Now, I could point to all kinds of other examples where that has been the case, where they've enticed a celebrity to endorse a product within the digital age. I'll use, for example, Champion. Okay, you all see Champion clothing now. Well, when I was young, Champion, if your mother bought you a Champion sweater, you'd be embarrassed because it was what poor people wore. Okay, you got it at Woolco. Okay, what happened? A Kardashian wore a Champion sweater. All of a sudden, desirable again. I'll give you another example. East Coast Lifestyle. East Coast Lifestyle was a project from a university student, I believe, in Acadia. Okay? And basically it was to print some customized t-shirts. That is in no way new or innovative. That's been going on for decades. Okay? What was the difference? Okay? They got Sidney Crosby to wear it, and he took a picture, put it on a social. Next thing you know, every 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 18, 24-year-old, 35-year-old person who watches hockey all of a sudden had to have an East Coast lifestyle shirt. Sidney Crosby wore it. And there's all kinds of examples of that. Now, I'm not saying you're going to find a celebrity to endorse your product like that, but it can take you from nothing to something. And with that notoriety, back to the Airbnb story, they started to raise some money and they started to grow and presently are worth billions of dollars. Okay? The story is not over for Airbnb. They're facing all kinds of challenges in the marketplace. They've overtaken real estate in many cities, including here, taking rentable properties off the market and turning them into short-term overnight rentals. Okay, that's affected us. That's affected cities right around the world. There are cities that basically have outlawed Airbnb. They've come up with regulations and laws to prevent Airbnb from expanding in their territory. So, but still an exceptionally valuable company. But they started with that idea, hey, I thought a way of making a few bucks. Very simple beginnings. We talked about the cereal. They began as Airbed and Breakfast. They've evolved from Airbed and Breakfast to Airbnb to a more, concise, more stylistically simple logo. Their website. Other companies have done effectively the same thing. Facebook started as a university project in 2003 called FaceMash, which evolved into the Facebook, which evolved into Facebook, which has evolved different features now, and like it's grown and pivoted, so it's much more than its original beginnings. Okay, today one of the most valuable companies in the world, started as a university project. Other examples, Uber. Uber was begun by two co-founders from other successful startups, Garrett Camp and Travis Kalenke. What happened was they were going out New Year's Eve, I think it was 2009, and they had to get these taxis, and it was really, they rent a limousine, and it was like $300 or $400 for the night. The whole thing seemed like it was ripe for disruption, okay? You hear the word disruption. Apps often disrupt. The most successful apps disrupt industries. Google, Facebook has disrupted the advertising industry. Magazines, newspaper, television advertising, all in the toilet because now people point to online media as the place that they want to advertise and promote first. Okay, Uber took aim at the cab companies, okay, ripe for disruption. The first name was Uber Cab, and they tested that idea in New York in 2010 with 3 cars. Okay, they changed the name, shortened it to Uber, and of course, the rest is history. Now it's the company you use as the metaphor for how you want your app to grow. YouTube. Anyone know how YouTube started? Anyone? YouTube was a dating
website.
Exactly. Yes, it was a dating website. Okay. Going back into the 80s, there were dating companies and they used video cassettes. So the idea was you would record a video cassette of yourself, you'd give it to the company would have other people coming to it, and they would give someone, like, here's 10 video cassettes of 10 people that you might want to meet. And someone would go home, pop the video cassette in the VCR, watch it, and then decide if any of those people were suitable for them. YouTube digitized that idea, but it didn't quite work in their metaphor. But they found that people loved sharing cat videos. Poof, an industry is born, a multi-billion-dollar company. But started as a dating app. It's the pivot sometimes. What don't you know? You learn things along the way that inform your decisions and may open up a larger opportunity. Another one, just as a comparison actually, everyone knows that TikTok is like the #1 social app out there now. You may not know there was another app called Vine 10, 15 years ago. It was exactly the same thing. Now it failed. It actually was, it was sort of a cause célèbre. It was very popular for a very short period of time. And then it kind of died. I don't exactly know why it died, but it did. Something didn't quite work. Sometimes it's in the details, okay? Sometimes it's in the timing, okay? Vine didn't work in 2005, but TikTok works in 2020, okay? Sometimes it's about timing. Sometimes it's about luck. Sometimes it's about getting a Kardashian to wear your clothes. Okay? You find all of this out through testing, prototyping, and I'll define prototyping at a later date, and testing your experiment. Okay? Netflix, for example, was a failure for 15 years before it became an overnight success. Okay? Netflix's primary business was mailing out DVDs. Why build an app? Okay, so here's two comparisons. A recipe card is the old technology. What do you need for it? You need paper, a pencil, it's portable, it's cheap. Okay, you can put a recipe card. A recipe program, when they first started coming out with computers, I got a little picture here of the Commodore 64. That was like a common computer in the early 80s. Everyone said, well, you can buy a computer and you can put your recipe cards, your recipes on the computer. Oh, great, I'm going to go. There's people did that. But there's a problem. You need the computer and the monitor. You need electricity. The computer's not in the kitchen. And what happens if you spill milk on the computer? Okay, so just because you can come up with an app idea, is it actually better than the contemporary analog solution to the problem? In this case, no. Now, there are obviously websites now, and you can search through all kinds of recipes. But that's different than you just typing out your own recipes on your own computer. Being able to search other people's recipes. Well, that's maybe the killer app, the thing that is most important, the search feature. Okay? Early computers didn't have that. Come on, back to life. Another one, grocery list. Again, paper, pencil, portable, it's cheap. Okay? Grocery list, well, you need a device. Well, the device costs you $500, $600. Paper's virtually free. You need electricity, okay? You know, plug it in, you need to charge it. Does it have a battery? How long does the battery last? Does it work on wireless technology? Is it any better than, is a grocery list app any better than a notebook app, notepad app? And it's a whole lot more expensive. Now, add something else to the mix, okay? Maybe you come up with a killer different reason, okay? Okay? The grocery list app may not work, but what if you built in a mind-reading app? What if it was artificial intelligence? What if you wrote it on a piece of paper and it just showed on your door, or wrote it on your app and it just showed up at your door the next day or in an hour? Okay. So just transferring the model of the analog world to a digital world itself may not itself just be the solution, but add the power of networking, bringing people together, some new fancy technology like GIS, mapping, artificial intelligence, then maybe you've got something. Right now, I mean, AI has been a big thing for about the last year. ChatGPT came out November of last year, October, November of last year, and everyone's been all about AI. How do you incorporate that technology into your idea? That may give you the differentiating factor. So why does your idea, why should it be on an app rather than physically building a product or having a notepad and a piece of paper? Well, it applies technology to the solution to give you better service that solves a problem and saves money and time. Okay? Maybe your solution on a mobile device is portable and gives you a competitive advantage because you put it on a device. Okay? You have to define how it's better than what currently exists to solve that problem. Okay? It could use the communication technology, networking, camera, GPS, data, and there's this phrase called killer application. Okay? Along the way, we've really only had a handful of killer applications in the technology world. Okay? The first one was probably email. Okay? It was a reason to buy a computer. Maybe not the first, actually. Yeah, maybe the first. Desktop publishing, another killer app. Okay? The internet, World Wide Web, killer app. Okay? People bought computers to get on the World Wide Web. People bought computers to go get graphic design. Okay? Sure, there's a lot of there's thousands, millions of applications out there, but very few have actually been the reason I got a mobile device. That's when you have magic, making Facebook or Uber, getting a killer application. And when you look at how this all becomes possible, there are options in this. Okay, now one of your options is to enter a competition like this. There's all kinds of these competitions with private companies and universities sponsoring these competitions to flush ideas out. Okay, but you're going to start with some personal investment, sweat equity, a couple of dollars, putting some money on a website, hosting a website. You may get into crowdsourcing. Friends and family are sort of immediate crowdsourcing. Pitch competitions like this. This is a version of a pitch competition. And then you get into more official stuff. Pre-seed, seed, angel, venture, Series A, B, IPO. We can talk about some of those things at a later date. But should your idea attract and have some legs, it goes without saying that you could very easily come up with some seed financing. Someone might give you $100,000 to build a prototype, okay? Or $200,000 or $300,000, $500,000 in order to push into a market. Okay, these things are all possible. There's people locally. I know dozens of people that have actually done that locally, let alone around the world. We're familiar with, like I said, the Facebook stories and whatnot. Another thing we'll talk a little bit more about later is like the revenue model. Okay, paid app premiums, sponsored by advertising, subscription, reselling user data that actually is a model. Okay, affiliate marketing, or getting bought out. I'm going to get bought out by Microsoft. I'm going to get bought out by Google. Those are all things that can and do happen. Hopefully these ideas, if you put the planning into the beginning, these ideas will be able to grow into something that can be a money-making venture for you. Wikipedia. Okay, we all use Wikipedia. Maybe you don't like to admit it, or but I use it all the time. Wikipedia is a great resource. You can see that they started with very modest revenue and grown into like a multi-million-dollar organization. Free organization, but still they make money. And in summary, how you build that app, you got to identify the audience. We're going to do that. Okay, we're going to look at the benefits to the customer. We're going to do that in the workbook. We're going to define the app's business model. We're going to look at the feature set. We're going to look at the tech stack. We're going to do all these things within this competition. It will set you up to put together a development team. Look at creating your user interface, the seamless experience. You'll look at how you're going to market it, how you're going to ship it, how you're going to make a little bit of money from it, and then how you're going to grow this potentially into a full-time venture, a full-time money-making venture. So we're going to handle the first 5 of these items and hopefully set you up for the other 6 items on the back end. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I've completed my introduction. So welcome to Battle Apps. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. I won't be addressing questions individually back to people, but if you ask me a question, I'll bring it to the next session so everyone can hear the answer. That way everyone has the benefit of all the information available to them. This event is recorded and it will be up and available online in the next hour or so, hopefully hour or so. Are there any other questions in the room or online? Sounds good. Wonderful. Okay, you should have your workbook. If you don't, email me. I'll make sure you get a copy. If you're here, you probably have signed up on the list, which is why you got the email notification about the time and the place and everything. But if there are any resources that you don't think you have or have a hard time accessing, just please email me and let me know. We'll be back here next Tuesday, same time, 11:30, and the following Tuesdays through January. So we got 3 more sessions, and I'll be addressing specific parts of the workbook to make sure you have as complete a background in filling this out as effectively as possible. And that's it. Thank you for participating, and good luck to everyone involved. Thank you.